This is a single strand star knot, Ashley Book of Knots number 1396. I think it's a very handsome knot. I like it, and I think it's very useful too. So I wanted to tie one. And the only documentation on the knot in the book, Ashley Book of Knots, is this diagram. And there's instructions how to use the diagram in general, because many knots are diagrammed this way, and that's a tedious job doing that. I had to scan the diagram and enlarge it just enough for the cord to fit, because as you make it much bigger, you start having a lot more cord requirement to get all around all those loops. And then you have to pin it to this beaver board with pins. No mistakes, it's tedious. So I made one that way so I could figure out another way to make the knot. Now here's one I made that hasn't been tightened yet. Loose, so we can investigate it, get oriented, how to tie it, maybe come up with some terminology. This is the standing end. That's where the knot starts, and we don't use it for anything. I think that's why it's called the standing end. You might notice that it has 5 lark's heads. That's 5 lark's heads. Each lark's head is linked to 2 others. So 5 lark's heads, and look, 5 fingers. That's kind of a suggestion there. Now, it seems like maybe we could number them. I don't know if I can keep track of the numbers, but so the standing end makes sense that to be number 1. And the order they're made in from this side, I'll call this the reference side, is counterclockwise. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, the links. This lark's head is linked to by the second one, number 2, and I'll call this link the first link from lark's head number 2. And the second link to number 1, there's number 1. The second link to number 1 comes from lark's head number 4. And that's typical for this side. And so it skips 1. Link number 1 comes from 2, and skip 3, and then from number 2, the second link comes from number 4. On the other side, it's not that way. So link number 1 has a link from number 2, and then from number 3. So that's clues on how to tie this knot, the method I devised. So let's do it. First thing is I'm going to put this on the standing end to keep track of it, keep it under control, and then we'll make a lark's head and put it on my pinky. That's the simplest part of making a knot right there. Now we'll lead up to the second lark's head, leaving this loop, which I'll put this yellow clamp on. Keep it under control and identified. Now, we put the first link from the number 2 into the number 1. Avoiding getting tangled in the clamps if possible. And then complete the lark's loop. And then we'll put its second link down between the first and second link of loop number 1. These 2 links don't attach to anything because that part of the knot isn't built yet. Lead up to number 3. Put the first link from number 3 into number 2. Finish the lark's head. And put the second link from number 3 into number 1. Lead up to 4. Now, lead up to 4 on that side. We're not going to do any more than 4 on in this setup because the next 2 we need to link the 2 ends together to make it a loop of a knot. So that's because each lark's head has 2 links to it. So we need to save 2 lark's heads to join the knot up. So what we're going to do is change the setup to make it more convenient. Now I think all these clamps and clothespins and even the fid aren't necessary, but they save a lot of trouble. So we've got these off my fingers. Now we're going to move the 3rd lark's head down to my pinky. Keeping track of this lead here. We put this stuff, the 2nd loop from 1 and the standing end, between my middle fingers. Now we put, this is 3 on my pinky. We'll put 2 on my thumb. And lark's head number 1 on my index finger. And we have our lead for number 4 right here. So now it's time to get the standing end out of the way. Get the clamp off the 2nd link from 1. And now we go through that 2nd link to build our 4th lark's head and link the knot together. Close it up. Notice how we went through that link twice. In and back, out and back. Now we'll complete that lark's head and we'll put the 2nd link into number 2. Gotta make sure that's right. Okay, that's right. Now we have our lead to number 5. And we go through this the 2nd link from number 1 again. Oh, you'll see 4 threads go through there. And now we have to make these 2 links available. These are the ones from number 1. Go through them for the first of our lark's loop. Then we put the 1st link into number 4. And go back through those 2 links. Come around. Finish our lark's loop. Now, you have to notice we're just going through the 2 links and then through the center of the knot. You can't really see it in there a bit, but that's what you got to do. And now we put the 2nd link into number 3, and we put this working in through the middle to finish the knot. And let's see if we did it right. Looks like we did. Now, notice this standing end is not exactly in the middle of the knot. So if we lift this link and put the standing end under it, that's closer to the center of the knot, and that will look better when it's all dressed up. I think it's correct. Actually, no. One needs to go through there. Or does it? No, it doesn't. It goes there. Check the other side. looks right. Still not quite convinced of this side. I think it's right. So there it is. Now, this method, I don't know if I remember to say so earlier in the video, while you're walking up your fingers, you can always move it down and do it again, move it down, do it again, and you can put as many points on the star as you want. However, when you tighten it, it wants to be a certain diameter, which is the diameter of the 5 in the center, so it's pretty tight. It'll be pretty snug around this cord. And so what it tends to do is wrap into a helix, the diameter of the 5-pointed star. And it's a lot of work to run all those loops and then tighten them all. Anyway, see if you can make one of those.